Thank you for listening to Depictions Media Radio. What if cutting off our curiosity ensures our demise, both individually and collectively? And our next guest literally means, what if our curiosity could heal the world? If investing in our curiosity results in honoring and the cultivation of life, represented in healthy ecosystems, maybe the natural result of cutting off curiosity is homogeneity, which is slowly cutting off the possibility of life. So our next guest, Shana Francis, she is a keynote speaker, and she also facilitates workshops and is a scholar of an ethical leadership and living. She is the founder and CEO of Consonate LLC. Shana has been interviewed by more than 100 other podcasters in the world, trying to spread her message about exactly what we've just talked about. She wants to cultivate our human power into things that will bring us back to some oneness with nature, our ecosystems, and also help promote maybe even diversity. So why don't we welcome Shana to the show, and let's hear a little bit about her story and what it is that she wants to do for people. Shana, welcome to the show. And hey. You have a fantastic story. And just I also remember something else. You have a neurodiversity, don't you?
Yeah, I'm neurodivergent. Yeah, I have ADHD.
Yeah. Hey, I love having neurodivergent people on the show. It makes it that much more fun, right? Because hey, it's like, hey, as a lot of my listeners know, I'm extremely dyslexic. So
you are also neurodivergent. Yeah.
Hey. It just means our brains work, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, tell us a little bit about how you got started with the keynote speaking and how you came about your message and all.
Yeah, absolutely. So first, thanks for having me. I appreciate being on the show. So I was born into an abusive household and raised inside of an evangelical Christian cult. And in those environments, you experience extremely unethical, very coercive and controlling leadership, if we want to even call it leadership, um, in which your humanity is not honored, you are not respected, and the people in positions of power do not have to take accountability, but
Mm-hmm.
you always do. um, and in those environments, I realized that I wasn't safe. I realized I couldn't show up as my full self. I realized I needed to protect myself constantly. And when you're in a constant state of protection, it's really hard to grow into your creativity, into the things that empower you, into and discover your purpose, discover what you want your purpose to be, discover how you want to change the world or be a part of the world and show up in the world. It's very stifling, right? There's
Mm-hmm.
there's there's no humanity in it. And so when I left those environments at 26 and started to ask myself who I wanted to be and how I wanted to show up in the world and what I wanted to believe, what actually resonated with me, what I actually believed, and allow myself to sit with that, I also at the same time began to recognize there was reflections of the environments I had grown up in the environment, like in our society at large, right? There was reflections of that. There was instances that I could see all around me. And I was like, oh, okay, right? And so that began me leaving and me, start beginning the process of discovering who I am. Also had me asking a lot of important questions of like, how do I want to show up in the world? How do I want to empower the people around me?
Right.
What is healthy relationship? Because none of those things have been modeled for me, right? Part of childhood is that you have healthy humans around you providing a model for what's possible and for healthy realities. I didn't have that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had to create that understanding. And I looked for models in books and it looked for incredible organizations and incredible people where I could understand leadership from a healthy and ethical standpoint. And that started now, it's become more than a decade worth of learning and study on what is it to be an ethical human and what is it to be an ethical leader. And ultimately, about 3 years ago, I finally gave myself permission to fully step into that. So I had been working with entrepreneurs and business owners, longtime business owners, all the way, from my early 30s and into my mid 30s, and in kind of a coaching capacity, both, individual and group coaching. Lots of people were coming to me for advice and so on and so forth. And and I recognized it was valuable, but I didn't know how to monetize it. I didn't know how to step into that fully. And
Right.
it took me some time and I sought out some mentors, and then I was like, okay, this is where I think I need to be spending my time. This is really important work, because what I didn't realize as I was doing all of this research, all of this learning along the way, and distilling it through my particular understanding of the world and having grown up in such severe coercive environments, right? So my interpretation of these things was very specific, is that other people didn't know these things already. I thought I was learning things that other people in some way, shape, or form already knew. And maybe I understood them a little bit differently, but I didn't understand that a lot of people were looking for the language that I had also been looking for, that a lot of people were also trying to discover how to show up this way, how to empower their leadership so they could empower their people so that they could drive innovation and profitability, right? They just didn't have the models. And so, that kind of broke open 3 years ago, where I stepped into that fully and was like, okay, this is what we're doing. We're going to be doing public speaking, consulting, and workshop facilitation. And I started developing my workshops, started distilling this information and giving it finite language. I mean, that's the thing. You can know a lot, but until you hone that language and you know how to share it with people around you, um, it's powerful for you, but it's difficult to relay it to other people. And so I had to spend a lot of time learning how to hone the language and um, share it with people in ways that were really impactful.
Right. That makes sense. Hang on a second. You know, we're all seeking for that purpose, but when if you grow up in an environment that suppresses your growth and only, or should I say, it suppresses your self power and only empowers someone else,
Yeah,
then you have a an interesting obstacle to get around, shall we say? I don't.
yeah,
Only you can answer how difficult that obstacle was.
sure. Yeah, I mean, the interesting thing that I recently sat down and was really thinking about this because I wrote an article that was specifically asking about confidence and how I gained confidence and
Hmm.
became who I am today. And I was like, oh, that's a really good question. I definitely want to answer that, right? And it made me sit down and really think about it. And for a long time, growing up in the environments that I did, I was forced and required to look for approval outside of myself. I was always having to seek the approval of God, of men who had put themselves in positions of power over me. I was always having to seek this um, approval so I would be seen deemed good and worthy, right? Can you hear that background noise? I'm so sorry.
No.
Okay. So in finding, in grounding myself in who I wanted to be and how I wanted to show up in the world, I realized that I never actually needed anyone else's approval, right? That I just needed to sit with my own approval. I needed to decide how I wanted to show up in the world, and that no one had authority over me. I didn't give them, right? Not as, especially not as an adult, right?
Yeah.
As a child, you don't really necessarily have a choice, but it, people only have authority over you that you give them. And so when I took back authority over my own life, I gained confidence because confidence comes from within.
Yeah.
It's ego that constantly seeks exterior approval and constantly needs to be reassured. It's confidence that continues to blossom and grow from within ourselves. You can only find that when you can sit with and be present with who you are and how you want to show up in the world, and you're no longer seeking external validation. Doesn't mean we don't need each other, because we absolutely do.
Hmm.
And we need to live in community with one another. But living in community with one another is not constant approval seeking. Those are not the same thing.
Right. It's like the difference between, uh, say, a codependent situation versus a um, independent, but I'm leaning on you sort of situation.
Yeah, I mean, you could say, because even just a group of two or three people can be community, right? It's the difference
Yeah.
between codependency and community. Community is based on healthy relationship. And in my work,
Right.
I posit that all healthy and ethical relationship requires curiosity, respect, and accountability to be constantly fostered and consistently invested in ourselves and in our relationships. And so when you do that, then you're fostering healthy community
Yeah.
as opposed to codependence. Codependence lacks accountability, it lacks respect, it lacks boundaries. I'm not a mental health professional, but grew up in a codependent relationship with with my mother.
Right.
So, I absolutely recognize, for myself,
Well,
what showed up there.
well, in
Yeah.
that cult situation, of course, I guess your mother was codependent, and then whoever the leadership was trying to push codependence upon you.
Yeah, they put you in a situation where you have a choice, obviously, but you don't really, especially as a child, because you have no healthy models. You don't know how to not be codependent. You don't know how to show up as a healthy person. You don't know how to hold boundaries from adults who literally hold your life in their hands. So you develop codependency as a means of survival. Um, and
Hmm.
and codependency hurts both people, or all of the people who are involved, because it's unhealthy. It's unhealthy, and it's a sort of crabs in a barrel situation, right? In order for you to survive, you just kind of both have to stay stuck.
Right. So you must have had, at some point, you had to have some light bulb moment. What did that look like?
Sure, I had lots of them. I had lots of them, but they're kind of gaslit out of you, right? You started to like second guess yourself. It's hard to explain unless you've grown up in it. It's really hard to explain. But yeah, there was lots of light bulb moments in which I tried to assert that I had a right to have my thoughts and feelings. I had a right to be, to have the questions, to bring forth the questions that I did. I had a right to point out the holes in the information being relayed to me that I needed to be submissive to and obedient to. And and so I would assert myself, but in those moments there was so, there was so much pushback and so much trauma. Pushback would be the nicest way to say it. There was so much pain that was incurred on my part to put me back in my place, right?
Mm-hmm.
By the people in authority over me that you know, you just stuff it down. You stop sharing with the world. You stop telling the world, what you wish could be or what you even observed, because you recognize that it's not safe, right? You recognize that you are seeing something that other people also see, but they're actively ignoring the harm it's causing. They're actively perpetrating harm on purpose. They know they're harming you. And so you bringing it to their attention, that's like looking a narcissist in the face and telling them they're a narcissist. You should never do that, because they find a way to turn it back on you and make you the bad guy, right?
Mm.
You at some point you realize, I'm being harmed by using my voice. It's being turned on me. It's being manipulated. And I know that's not my voice, and I know that's not what I meant, but that's what you keep being told you meant, right? And so you at some point just like recede into yourself. So there was these light bulb moments all along the way, probably starting when I was 10 or 11, 12 at the oldest. But eventually, right, eventually I was old enough, and my father left, and then I was able to leave. So I left at 26. My father like literally just abandoned the family and ransacked our house with other people from the church, by the way. Strange men ransacked our house with him. And so, I left at 26, and then was able to, actually show up in the world, or try to figure out how to show up in the world as myself.
So, who is Shana?
So I'm a deeply curious person. I'm someone who wants to spend the rest of my life questioning what I know and what I believe, expanding my perspectives, connecting with the world and the people around me. I'm somebody who wants to continue to share what I've learned with people who want to understand it. You know, I'm somebody who insists on using my voice to speak truth to power. I'm someone who insists that the people who are part of my life be deeply invested in curiosity, respect, and accountability. It's a really good way of telling whether or not you're safe with someone, specifically long term, right?
Yeah.
You only really find out if you're safe with someone when there's a moment that they need to take accountability for. And if they do so without prompting, and they do so, and by the way, accountability is not an apology and it's not punishment. It is taking responsibility for the impact of our actions on the people and the lives that have been impacted, and then learning more and doing better. So accountability is deeply tied to curiosity.
Yeah.
So it's in those moments that you discover that, right? So that's who I am. I'm somebody who will spend the rest of my life learning and know that I still won't know a fraction of what there is to know in the world, and sharing the learning with people around me as they ask me to, really.
Yeah. What are some of the biggest things that you have learned?
I think all of our journeys are really very personal journeys, right? Like your journey in owning a business, your journey in running a business, your journey in whatever it is in your public life is a direct reflection of your journey in your personal life. Um, so one of the biggest things I learned was that I could trust myself, and that my making a mistake or making a bad decision was not a reflection that I couldn't trust myself. It just meant I had more learning to do, because failure and mistakes are not, they're harmful, but they become excessively more harmful, and we become somebody who is more committed to to protecting ourselves rather than showing up in real relationship with the people around us when we deflect our responsibility, and accountability. So, yeah.
Actually, that's a pretty. It's a pretty large chunk of learning, and um,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
I mean, I think there's some people, some life coaches out there that they take that and they turn it into a 2 year program.
Yeah, I mean, we all learn at our own pace. And
Yeah,
I think the pace at which somebody is able to really connect with somebody, with something, it's also like in finding the language that connects with the client. Coaching is an aspect of my work. It's not the main focus of my work, but it is an aspect of my work. But I think ultimately the process of coaching is like finding the language that specifically connects to the person or persons you're talking to. And
yeah,
sometimes that takes a while, and it also then takes that person time to distill that and figure out how to apply it to their own life and practice applying it to their own life consistently. So, it's definitely not going to take you 2 minutes. Definitely not going to take you 2 days to make that change. But, it could take you 2 months, 6 months, 2 years. It could take the
yeah.
rest of your life. It just depends.
Well, that's the interesting part about life and learning is we have our lifetime to live and learn, right?
Exactly. Exactly. So
And
there's no rush, right? There's no
right,
rush. It's not about perfection, but it is about learning more and doing better
yeah.
consistently, right? It's about consistent action, consistently leaning into our humanity.
Yeah. What I was going to say also is it doesn't take 2 minutes to take the first step. It only takes
No, but
a couple of milliseconds
yeah,
to take the first step towards it,
yeah,
right? Yeah.
yeah. But it does take vulnerability, and that's
Yeah.
something that
Mm-hmm.
is that has been weaponized against some people. And so for some people, they need to go to therapy before they can even begin that first step because they have to learn how to trust themselves and learn how to surround themselves with people they can also trust so they can take that first step, you know?
Yes. I understand that, but in that in of itself, if we stay on the philosophical route, that in of itself is a step.
Oh, it absolutely is.
It's a
100%. I
really
agree.
important
That
one
is,
too, right?
yeah, no, that is a step. That becomes the first step is the getting, recognizing that you need the help,
Yeah.
the support. And we all need help and support.
We,
We all need to function from a place of community. But yes, that is absolutely a step.
because you could have not taken that step, and you could have stayed in whatever that uh, religious cult. I know sometimes you call it a cult, sometimes you call it a church. Um,
Yes.
uh, but just from my own definition, the church to me is a community, not an entrapment.
Yeah. I think community is something that's healthy where all people are honored
Mm-hmm.
and empowered and respected. It becomes a cult when you remove it starts to slip into cultiness when you stop investing in healthy and ethical relationship, when respect is only reserved for those in positions of power and where accountability is only reserved for those people who have no power,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Um,
Yeah.
I mean, there's so much for us to learn out there, and you seem like a
Yeah.
really good teacher.
I hope so. I work on it all the time. I mean, I don't, sometimes I'm like, because my neurospicy brain gets ahead of itself sometimes.
Uh,
So I've had to spend so much time just practicing honing the language in a way that keeps my brain engaged and keeps my brain on track.
well, we
Because
we
my
should.
brain loves to like pull at threads and bring them together, and then sometimes the main message gets lost, and I'm like, hold on, we deviated too many times. Let's get back on track, right? So, I spend a lot of time rehearsing my workshops and my keynotes. My keynotes are all written out because my neurospicy brain, if I just tried to like go off the cuff, like some speakers have like a whole bunch of stories and they've memorized these little like versions of stories that are anywhere from 30 seconds to a couple minutes long, right? And they'll put them together.
Yeah.
Can't do that. My speeches are all written out. They're all something that I end up memorizing or having to use a teleprompter to go through, because otherwise I would, an hour worth of me talking and no one asking me any questions and helping getting me back on track, I would probably, it wouldn't be a disaster, but after a while I'd be exhausted just trying to keep myself on track.
I totally understand that. Even okay. Let's pull the curtain back behind the show.
Right.
Right? It's like I have notes up here on the screen somewhere. Right?
Good. I mean, you got to, I mean, that's the thing. Sometimes also it like helps you be present.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like you're not worried about what you need to say and you have those. It helps you to be present and truly connect with the people. Like one of my favorite things about delivering a keynote or being giving a workshop or anything like that is that to me it's like me and every single individual in that room. I'm talking to every single person, just me and them, right? It becomes this really personal thing. I am not the person who's afraid to look people in the eyes. I'm the person who's actively looking for the people who are looking at me back in the eyes, right? So I love connecting with the audience. I love those moments of like, is this resonating, right? So that I can learn if I'm teaching people well, because that's where I find out. I'm like, are they nodding along? Do they seem to be processing,
Right.
right? So that I can hone my skills as a teacher, because we're always learning. We can always
Yeah.
do better.
Yeah. The learning doesn't stop at the 12th grade or something. It
No,
keeps.
or even out of college, or even after your master's, or
Yeah.
even after a PhD. Like, just staying curious and continuing to learn is such a powerful thing.
So, what do you think of this statement that I hope the day I stop learning is the day that I actually stop breathing.
Oh, for sure, that will be true for me. That
Yeah.
that will be. I mean, I think I will learn right up to the very second I stop breathing. I,
Yeah, right.
I mean,
That's it.
that's the thing is, I will be learning as the lights go out.
Yeah.
I because to me that's how we connect to our humanity. Curiosity is deeply connected to our humanity. Like curiosity is how we learn. Learning is how we grow, how we expand, how we
Hmm.
learn, how we are interconnected with every living thing around us. And those living things around us work as mirrors, reflecting back to us possibilities and understandings of ourselves, and so on and so forth. I mean, curiosity is deeply connected to hope. It's connected to joy. I mean, there's studies on the fact that how connected to curiosity hope is. Like, you know, it's for me, it's where my humanity is found. Me being curious about the world around me wanting to connect with the people and the lives around me and the living world around me. Like that's where I find my humanity, um, over and over again. So for sure, I will be learning for the rest of my life.
Oh yeah. That's. I was just thinking to myself. That's the where it is. That's where the life actually
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
Um, you know, what do you think makes our world beautiful?
It's a really good question. No one's ever asked me that before.
Mhm.
When I look around and I watch people, when I watch people or interact with people or the living world around me, and I watch the way that we learn from each other and the way we gain perspective and the way we fall in love with each other because of what we learn about one another, and we find out the ways that we align in the world or connect on the ways we want to show up in the world. To me, that's tremendously beautiful. There's something so magical about that, about connecting with one another, about finding a true relationship with one another.
Mhm. Yeah. That's. I think that's. Oh oh. Did we freeze up? Can you still hear me?
Oh, I can hear you.
Oh okay. I thought we well your picture froze. Um,
Can
so I'll edit
you
this piece a
hear
little bit.
me?
Yeah. Oh, went fuzzy. Um,
So,
nope, nope. It went fuzzy. Crap. Hang on, I'm gonna log out and log back in again because I went fuzzy on my end. Oh, nope. There we go. Now you're moving slowly. Nope. Yeah, you can keep doing that. Oh, yeah. Okay.
okay, there we go.
Yeah. So
I was
I don't
like,
know.
I think yours crashed on your end, and then my internet. Like, I don't know if my internet. It said my internet's a little unstable, and I was like, oh boy, we can't have problems on both our ends. Somebody's got
Yeah,
to.
yeah. I think we had problems on both ends. So,
Yeah.
so I just
Don't
it's
forget to hit record again.
yeah. We're gonna start the record over again from here. All right.
Recording in progress.
There we go. All right. So okay. Yeah. Next question. And we'll start now. Okay. How do you want to cause beauty in our world? How do you want to affect people in that positive way? Oh no. Did it again.
you hear me?
Now I hear you. Oh, um, s- I am starting to think
Can
that
you hear
somebody.
me?
Um, I hear you now.
Oh, what is going on?
I heard you saying something's going on.
Okay, wait. I could hear you now. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I hear you. All right.
Both of our internets are being a pain in the butt. Okay,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
how do I want to cause beauty in the world?
Yes.
I don't know about most people, but no one ever sat me down and said, this is how you show up in relationship with people around you. This is how you build healthy relationships. This is how you show up consistently. No one taught me that. No one even showed me that. I had to discover it for myself. And then as I discovered it for myself, I realized that so many people were trying to discover some aspect of that for themselves. And there's so much beauty in relationship. There's so much beauty in our connection to one another and knowing how to show up in a way that empowers yourself and empowers the people around you. Because showing up in the world as curious connects us to hope and joy. It connects us to understanding the world around us, but it has to be balanced out by respect.
Mm-hmm.
That's when the people around us can begin to trust us. But they can't. There's a real deepening of a relationship, and real trust shows up when accountability shows up. And again, I don't know about anybody who's listening or anybody else, but when I know I've done something that might have harmed someone, that might have taken up too much space in the conversation, might have, you know, in some way been harmful to them. Maybe that wasn't my intention, but I noticed that it bothered them, or I said something and I didn't really mean it the way that it came out, or whatever it is, right? Or if I did something that actually did harm someone, I knew it harmed them right in the minute, in the moment. When I've carried that around and I haven't invested in accountability, I haven't been willing to be uncomfortable enough and vulnerable enough to take accountability, that stays with me. I carry it around with me, whether we do consciously or unconsciously. Then we're being careful about how we approach the person. We're being careful about what we say and don't say. We're protecting ourselves and at the same time separating ourselves from that person. It starts to lay the bricks for a wall between us and that person in real relationship with them. We can feel it and so can they.
Mm-hmm.
And so bringing, for me, empowering people to understand and have the language for what real relationship is an extremely powerful thing. And it brings so much beauty into our lives. So that's how I want to, and that's what I hope the impact of my work already is.
Wow. You truly believe in creating an amazing world.
Yes, I know that by us really understanding what relationship is and investing in it, we will change the world. We will change the world. It's just going to take us time to work through the messiness of actually showing up as the people we need to and want to.
Yeah. I usually don't ask these questions on this particular show, but I'm going to ask this of you.
Okay.
What do you think of what is going on right now?
In the world, in our country,
Well,
both.
why don't we? What? Geez, because why don't we just go with the world? Because
Okay.
of course I'm broadcasting you from Canada, and you're in the United States.
Yes.
While we're brother and sister countries.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what I see going on in the world is a lot of harm being caused a lot of people in order to continue producing and to continue making money, for certain people and organizations, to keep being able to sell their products. Because at the end of the day, it seems to all be driven by money, by the accumulation of wealth. whether it's by a government or an organization or whatever it is. I don't see people in positions of power being truly invested in accountability. I don't see them even caring to know or sit with or embody the impact of their actions. I see tremendous, horrifying examples of dehumanization, harm. I see things that cause me a tremendous amount of pain to see, let alone knowing or trying to fathom the amount of pain that the people who are experiencing them are going through.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that much of it is happening with my tax dollars, with my support through corporations because of the products I'm buying from different corporations. And I do my very best to consume as ethically as possible, but there doesn't seem to be any way to truly exist in our world in a thoroughly ethical way. To know that none of your money is going to harm someone, to know that everybody in the company is making ethical wages. There's just so few examples of that. And that's the horrifying part. It's really hard to exist in this world right now and be connected to your humanity. I understand why people seek to disconnect and numb themselves, because the reality of our world is one that feels so daunting, and there's so much pain in it for us and so many other people. More people are in pain in this world than are not. And so when I get to that place where I'm like, this just feels so overwhelming. How in the world do we make change? How in the world do we stop this pain? How in the world do we make a world in which people are honored simply because they exist? And we don't decide that we get an opinion in how they show up in the world as long as they're not harming other people. How do we do that? And that's why I come back to my work, is that the more we understand what real relationship is and what it requires of us, the most revolutionary thing we can do is be invested in true relationship with ourselves and the people around us. Build community. Because community and hierarchy and systems of oppression are in direct opposition with each other. But in order to form true, powerful community, we have to understand what relationship is first. You can't skip the steps. You can't just be like, okay, I'm here in community. No, because you don't even know how to be in community. Right. You've got to do the work. You've got to be invested in curiosity, respect, and accountability. People ask me, as we form community, well, what happens when, people come into that community in order to disrupt, in order to be agitators? They're not always so obvious. And I'm like, but I think they are. When you are deeply and truly invested in curiosity, respect, and accountability, and you engage with people in the world that way, and you not require, but that's your boundary, that people to engage with you have to engage from that place, it's going to become really obvious who isn't engaged in that way, where they're manipulating information rather than honoring how the intentions of it, you know what I mean? Like, it starts to become really obvious, and then we've got to trust our intuition or our gut, right? So I'm horrified by the things I see. I'm horrified by the pain. I'm horrified by knowing that child slave labor exists all over the world, including our own country and including in America. I'm horrified by it all. And I know that I can only do what I can do. I can't change the world, but I could change the world if I could change myself. And so that's what I'm committed to.
Right. Wow. That is extremely powerful, what you just said. Okay, so we're going to leave it at that, and I'm going to ask you to tell everybody the best ways to get a hold of you and work with you, because
sure.
I think that working with people like you is going to bring that change about. So
I hope so. Yeah, the best way to engage with me is through my website, or you can email me. It's definitely me who responds. And It's Shana, Shana, at consonate.world, CONCINNATE.world. I'm sure my website will also be tagged in the show notes, so you can find my contact information through the website. Those are the best ways to engage with me. Also, you can subscribe to my email list on my website. That goes out once a week. And what I love about that is that you can also reply directly to that and ends up right in my inbox. So yeah, definitely reach out. Those are the best and easiest ways.
Thank you, Shana, for joining us. It's been wonderful having you, and I hope to have you back again
Of course.
in the near future.
Yeah, absolutely. Love to
Yeah.
come back. Thanks for having me.
All right. All right. Thank you for everybody for listening today. Please find that subscribe button wherever it is. And if you happen to hit our support page, please leave us some sort of support so that we can continue bringing people like Shana who do wonderful work in our world to you so that we can learn from wonderful people doing wonderful things. Thanks, everybody. Help us to go. This show has been produced by Depictions Media. Please contact us at depictions.media for more information.